attribute my success, a majority of that success has come from my Six Sigma certification, to be really honest. When I started my Green Belt training and certification, I was with Intelligent Global Services. 8 years back, Six Sigma was not known. This class was not as big as it was 8 years back. 8 years back, we had only 10, 12 participants. And I was very apprehensive about Six Sigma certification. I kept troubling Vicky every now and then. What is this certification all about? Is your certification valid? And will I be recognized in the industry? What kind of project assistance would you give me? And I had so many questions which maybe you all as participants don't have, because you all know about Six Sigma. Maybe some of your companies, some of your institutes are already practicing Six Sigma as a culture. But for me, coming from a very different industry, Intelenet is a BPO, and it's majorly into service segment. So me coming from a service segment, I was really unaware of what kind of applications I would have, what kind of practices I'll have, will I get that institutionalized support to implement Six Sigma in my day-to-day activities, etc. But thanks to VK, thanks to Benchmark Six Sigma as a team, they've really helped me, they've mentored me throughout my journey as a Six Sigma Green Belt, as a Six Sigma Black Belt, and so on and so forth. So I'm really, really grateful to you, VK, thanks a lot. And had it not been for your support, had it not been for Benchmark Six Sigma, I wouldn't have been standing here. Thanks a lot. Started my journey 8 years back, the proportion was different. Isn't it, VK? We had more from manufacturing, and maybe I was the only one who was from service, sparing a couple of others who were also from the service segment. And what do you want me to talk on? Do you want me to talk on projects? You want me to talk on deployment, or you want me to talk on execution? Sustenance. Okay, that is execution, that is sustained execution. How do you control? Very good point. So let me start this way. Majority of the Six Sigma projects get vanished, or they disappear after 8 months. And 40% of the Six Sigma projects would get reinitiated sometime later. Like you will see a lot of people doing a Six Sigma project on AST. Okay? The AST is sustained till the time you have the same group of people, and once the people disappear, AST again goes up. Then again you will have someone start a black belt project on reducing AST, and then you have the controllables, etc., etc. So it goes through a plethora of activities again and again. Very good question. So how would you bring about sustenance, or how would you bring about the right controls in a Six Sigma project? There are 3 levers to it. There are 3 things in your project. If you have clearly identified those 3 things, the chances of your Six Sigma project going out of the way is very rare. The first thing is, have you established the right controls, or the controls with respect to measurements? So while in a service segment, and I believe you're from the service segment, right? So in a service segment, while you will have a lot of churn with respect to people, how would you ensure that this churn does not impact your output metric Y? This is the first thing. The second thing is, even if your output metric is going to go out of control, do you have enough levers identified, or do you have enough indicators to give you the signal at the right time? So that's okay. Let's agree that there are going to be changes, there are going to be fluctuations. Things will be out of control at times, but you have to understand, and you have to go back and see if your project gives you that signal that whenever things would go out of way, or things are not going well, does it give you the indicator well in advance, so that you can just inform your clients, inform your stakeholders, inform everyone that, hey, listen what, this is going to happen, be prepared for it, so that no one likes surprises, right? So if as a Six Sigma project, you are able to give those indicators, those predictors, I think you are far more successful than a Six Sigma project which is perfectly in control but does not have any indication of when it's going to go wrong. That is the second thing. And the third thing is, the people who are going to drive these projects have to sink in the culture of improvement. I would not say Six Sigma, but improvement. What happens is, black belt as a person, as an individual, has the responsibility to drive a project, right? So while he is doing a project, he will be fully energized, fully pepped up. He wants to bring about that change, that cultural difference, and he'll go all over the place to ensure that everything is managed. But as soon as that project is handed over to operations or to someone else who only looks at it as a Six Sigma project, as a deployment aspect, he'll not be able to drive it, and he'll not be able to realize the essence of that particular project, and as a result the project will just deviate. So these three things, if you have in your project, it's highly possible or it's highly unlikely that your project will go out of the way. Reference to one of the projects that I did on customer satisfaction improvement. This project was primarily for improving the customer satisfaction for one of the leading airline companies in the world, and we had a serious problem with respect to delivery on NPS, that is Net Promoter Score. So Net Promoter Score is nothing but your total highly satisfied customers minus the total neutrals, dissatisfied, highly dissatisfied, and divided by the total number of surveys those were given. So we had tremendous problem, and we had a lot of assumptions floating around. I mean, the stakeholders said that, boy, you know what, at this salary I would only get this type of people. I don't have that quality of people that I need to drive my operations. I said, okay, this is an assumption, let's prove it. This is an assumption, let's prove it. The other assumption he said was, you know what, Asad, there's a lot of attrition in my team. I don't think I'll be ever able to meet my NPS target or CSAT goals. I said, okay, that's also one of the assumptions, let's prove it. The third thing, he said that, you know what, Asad, people in India can never compete with people in the US, because US guys are culturally sensitized to customer satisfaction. They know how to deliver customer satisfaction, they know the real nitty-gritties, and you know what, Americans don't like to speak to Indians. I said, well, this is the third assumption, let's prove it right. This is what led to a Six Sigma project, because we knew the problem, we did not know the solution, right? We started off with a Six Sigma project. We had the measurement system analyzed, we had the DCP or the data collection plan laid out, etc., all those stages. We came to hypothesis testing. So we had the hypothesis like your agent skills impact customer satisfaction. So we did a chi-square test. We saw the number of people who had high skill, the number of people who had high CSAT, number of people low skill, low CSAT, with various permutations and combinations. What we saw was agent skill does not impact customer satisfaction. Agent will does. So that means I might be the best person in this world with respect to the product. I might know the product inside out. But if I don't have the will, if I don't have the right attitude, do you think I'll be able to satisfy the customer? No, right? So linguistics, verbal communication, English language, etc., it had an impact. It had an impact, but not to an extent that will drive my CSAT or Net Promoter Score for that matter. The second assumption that was made was, well, the kind of salary you have or the kind of, you will not get good people at lower salary. So we compared salaries of people across the industry. I mean, the best performing companies, what is their average salary? And what we saw was, ironically, the best paying companies were not the best performing companies on CSAT. In fact, those were the not so good paying companies, they were doing exceptionally well on CSAT, customer satisfaction, because they had the eagerness, they had the will, or maybe something else. But this was the second assumption which we proved wrong. The third assumption that was, well, people in India can never compete with the people in the US. Let's prove it. So we said that, okay, if that's the case, then people in the US should never get a dissatisfaction. Ideally, all the customers should have been very, very satisfied with these guys. Apparently, this also assumption was proved wrong, because we saw that they had the skills, they had the linguistics, they had the communication, etc., But when it comes to going out of the way to help the customer, or when it comes to providing different options, where I can help you this way, I can help you this way, providing alternatives, providing options, they were lacking the most. And what we found was, a couple of our reps, our executives were doing exceptionally well